welcome to another episode of the G.I. Joe New News Review. I am David Allen. I have two special guests today. A bit of a Christmas theme episode, something different from our usual fare on the G.I. Joe New News Review. I'm going to be joined by Dan Klingensmith and Noah Klingensmith, the creators of. Hello, Dan, and hi, Noah. Unwrapping the Magic, How Santa Met Mrs. Claus. We're going to be talking to Dan and Noah about their new Kickstarter for this holiday season. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hi, Noah.
Hey,
Welcome to the show.
thanks.
This is our
You're
new.
dealing with a preteen here, so you may have limited answers.
Yeah, I understand. I was a preteen when I was that age, too. Uh, we're going to be on my new YouTube channel. This is a new format that a lot of folks might not be familiar with, but I've interviewed Dan many, many times over the years, and I forgot to bring the books with me to show off the books.
That's all right.
I was going to show off the books. Creating the history of G.I. Joe, creating the history of G.I. Joe series of books. I've interviewed Dan many times on that series. He's done 15 volumes over the probably what, 12, 13 years,
About 10
Dan?
years. Yeah, about 10 years.
10 years. And so Dan has always talked to me about this project. I've heard about this particular project a few times and the different stages and the where he's going with it and what the status of this project is. And we're finally here, Dan. We're finally able to talk about it. And it looks beautiful from what I've seen. Um, how does it feel on your end to get to this point after all these years?
For me, it's huge. Uh, we wrote it several years ago, so he was much younger. When we came up with the concept, and we just sat down. I don't remember what triggered it, but I think it's just because I was doing my books. They're like, well, he and my daughter both, because she wants to do something next. We have an idea, but he had something, and he's like, well, I want to do something. Inspiration or inspired, I think, by my books for G.I. Joe, just kind of wanting to do something together. So, um, it took close to what, 6 7 years almost. It's been a minute, to get it going. We ran into some delays. I had a couple different people I talked to about illustrating it, and they started it, and then they got busy with life, and so we kind of moved away from that, and I talked to someone else, and they kind of just didn't think that they'd have time either. So I'm glad I was able to find Stephanie Clark Eskander, who was willing to commit to this and has done an excellent job in a very short time period. And I think she captured what we wanted to be captured as far as the story goes itself.
So, Noah, what was the inspiration for this story when you coming up with this? I know it was a few years back. Do you remember why you thought this was a good story and what the reasoning behind it was?
So I thought since Christmas was like really celebrated, I would make a book on it and it would probably go big since Christmas is so big.
Well, I see the logic there because there's a lot of big Christmas stories that have come over the decades. I'm a lot older than you, and I remember when the Rankin Bass specials that were books first became specials, and I remember the Grinch when that first came out. I'm that old when the Grinch first came out, and that became big, and Elf on the Shelf became big. That's based on a book, and a lot of these things are based on books. So I think that was a smart through process on your part. Uh, so do you expect this to go beyond the book down the road, or is the book just the beginning?
So I hope this book goes big and then we can create more books that will come down the line with it.
Oh, very cool, very cool. How's it feel working with your old pop there, who's a professional author and book publisher?
It's pretty fun as he knows what he's doing when it comes to writing it. So I knew that he knew what he was doing.
Has it met all of your expectations? Do you like the art and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the picture that you've shown, I don't know if you have any extra pictures or art that you can share here, Dan, or
Yeah.
not. You do?
Yeah. Yeah. Afterwards, I don't have right now on me. We're on my phone, but I can
Oh,
definitely share some stuff if you want to add to it later.
cool. Um, so yes, the illustrator Stephanie Clark Eskandar, she worked on the G.I. Joe brand, if I'm not mistaken, and then she's worked on other toy brands.
She did more girls' toys. I think she did Jam. She told me a few of the different ones. How I met her is kind of an odd situation. I don't remember specifically, but she did the WWF My Buddies. Remember those soft goods? So like you
Yeah.
wrestle with them. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I think she did the designs on those or worked on those. So that's kind of how I got connected with her. But she did more girls' toys. So um, there's like I can't think of the one we were just talking about it not long ago. Moonlight something. I can't think of the last part of it, but um, so I reached out to her about a year ago when the other person I was talking to was kind of on the fence. And so I talked to her and mentioned it to her, and she was really busy at the time. So I was like, okay, well, I'll keep in touch with you and let you know. And then in the summer, I like I said, I had somebody else lined up that I had talked to when I went up to Rhode Island, and afterwards, it just didn't feel like it was going to go through. So I reached out to her and we came to terms and wrote up a contract and she's done an excellent job. But I'd seen some of her stuff on her Facebook page. She does like a lot of animals and like cartoony animals like illustrations. That thing she does it like a church for church. And so I saw her style, so I liked it. And what we were trying to capture is really originally it was in the 1800s we were trying to capture was the original concept. Kind of moved into, probably more 1920s, 1930s era time frame as far as when this story takes place. So got a little bit more modernized there, but not 80s or 90s or anything. We're not doing fluorescent. We're not doing the 90s fluorescent colors, but no, she's been great. And then Kirk Bazigian's actually helped out a little bit. I sent him the black and white copy back a few weeks back, and he went through it and edited it. So I'm thankful for his friendship and helping out a little bit, even though it's not G.I. Joe. He's helpful with checking it out.
He's a really, really cool guy. I hung out with him a couple of weeks ago at UltraCon,
Oh
and
yeah,
we
yeah,
just
that's right. That's right. He's
we
great.
just sat and talked because no one was. Well, I won't say no one, but very few people were coming up to him because they didn't know who he was. But
Yeah.
I definitely knew, and I was sitting with him, and I was giving him pitches and this and that, and asking him questions. And I don't think I've spent that much time with Kurt before, and it was so much fun. Me and my friend Jason, we were just picking his brain and asking him all kinds of stuff, and I think he was enjoying it too because he could
Oh
relax.
yeah. Oh yeah. He wants to be involved, and who wants to sit at a show and not talk to anybody. So I'm glad you guys were able to do that. So
He's really good. The art style really lends itself to this type of a story, a Christmas, children type story. I really like the style from the art that I've seen, and I look forward to seeing more. So, why was it this format? I know you've done lots of Kickstarters. Why did you feel the Kickstarter was the right way to go with this particular project, not try to go through a regular publisher? Because seems like this would probably be successful with a regular publisher.
yeah, I mean potentially. I mean, for us, it's just a personal project. You know what I mean? If it were to go quote unquote big, as Noah said, great. But really with this project, what it turned into is kind of a lesson of persistence. And I wanted to teach him, you don't give up. Continue to push yourself. Even though you have obstacles in your way, and we ran into some, you keep pushing and it will come to fruition. So, with Kickstarter, I've done it before. I know how it works. I mean, Yeah, I mean, when I was trying to get the Joe books published, I saw the hardships and the challenges with getting a publisher. A lot of them, you need to have an agent and all kinds of stuff there. So there's a lot of nuances with an actual, big publisher. But that doesn't mean someone can't pick it up either. So, um, but yeah, so I just kind of figure we'll try it out the Kickstarter. I know it's going to be mainly going to be a lot of friends and family members supporting it primarily. I've also experienced, with Volume 12, just an outright sale, and that was a bit more challenging when you didn't have the Kickstarter and the urgency of Kickstarter sometimes. And so, yeah, I didn't want to run the risk of, hey, let's produce this thing and I sell 5 copies, and here I am, wondering, because again, you lose that urgency. So that's the benefit of Kickstarter with any project, is the urgency. And with mine, me well enough, my projects well enough. I'm all about speed, but I'm also about quality. And so I want to make sure these things get out before Christmas. This isn't your normal Kickstarter project that's 2 years later, you're finally getting a Christmas book, and now your kid's, 12 or 13. So, so that's the cool thing. Like, this will be, I've already lined up my printer. Um, it's nice. I don't have to do any approval processes or anything like that. It's all through me. And so, yeah, so we're looking forward to it. And so we'll see how it does. I mean, it's creeping up. I mean, we just head over. I think I just saw 12% this morning. I mean, of course, it's not a Joe book where it's gonna have a very good following as far as the community goes. But hopefully, a lot of people, with kids or grandkids, will pick it up. It's $12, so it's not as much as what my Joe books were. It's going to be a little bit cheaper process. I mean, I'm still printing in the U.S., so of course it's not pennies on a dollar as if I were to print overseas. So yeah, so that's kind of why I went that route.
Well, yeah, I was gonna touch on that. You have the schedule for November printing, and so you can get it out by what, the second week or first week of December, right in time for the holidays. So that was an
Yeah, I mean,
intentional strategy to do that.
yeah, it ends on the 20th. I'm gonna be working. I laid it out yesterday to make sure all my border, or all my what's it called? Yeah, I guess borders, all my measurements, all that fun stuff, And so I reworked it through yesterday, and then I'm gonna be meeting with the printer this week. Hopefully, get a proof even going, so I can kind of see what it's gonna look like in that form. And then, so by the 20th, my goal is just to do what I've always done. If it hits, call the printer that afternoon and say, let's go. So I'm hoping to have it printed by the first or second week of November. My dad's actually coming in town, so I said, hey, you can I'm gonna put you to work. And so, we'll be shipping out, I'm assuming, probably, hopefully, mid-November. So you have even more time to read it. And, hopefully it's one of those books you could take with your kids and read at night before they go to bed. So,
Well, that's something I really wanted to touch on, is the family aspect of this, and the ages. From what I read on the Kickstarter, was 3 to 9 and stuff like that. Was that an intentional age parameter you were going for? Do you
I
think
mean,
that children that age are more literate nowadays? Because it's difficult to get kids to read.
no, I mean, I think, just with the age group, I mean, it could be older than that, of course, 3, because he asked me to. He's like, why 9, not 10 or 11? But I was just more, I did some research, and just recommendation was that's, something to put on there. But I mean, it's really for anybody. I mean, it's a story of, two people and how they meet and how it progresses very quickly. It's not drawn out, like a movie or something. Um, but yeah, I think anybody could read it to their kids. So 3, 4, I'm not expecting to read it on their own, but maybe mom and dad will help out. But once they get older, I'm hoping it's going to be one of those things that kids pull out every year. And when he was little, there's certain books we read every Christmas, every season. And then, just like you and I, probably watch certain movies every year when it comes to Christmas
Yeah.
time. So,
Noah, what do you feel the style and the story are going to lend itself to the next generation of children out there? Because your dad and I, like he said, we have ours, but every generation there's something new. What do you think this story and what do you think this project is going to lend itself to your generation and the next generation?
So I think this project could easily get to them because maybe the schools will read it and maybe just parents will probably read it from ages 10 below. Well, they'll probably still enjoy the book.
Very cool. Thank you. Um, so the story itself, you
Hmm.
said it was inspired by you, Noah. What inspired the story? What made you think that Santa and Mrs. Santa meeting would be a good kind of tale for a Christmas book for this generation of kids and families?
So I thought it'd be a good idea since I don't feel like anyone has made a book on how they met. And if they're a wife and a husband, we should know how they met.
That's very logical. You're right about that. We have to connect all the dots, and we have to know how the beginning starts because we know how the end starts. Comes right. So you want to have all those dots. I agree with you. I think that's a good idea. Thanks for that. Um, so what do you think of the artist that your dad has chosen for this? Do you like the style? Uh, has she captured the story that you wanted to tell?
Yeah, she has. I like her style a lot.
Yeah, it's very nice. I think it has a children type feel to it, children's feel to it. It has a timely feel to it, like because when we think of Christmas and stuff like that, we always look to the past, and it seems like a lot of stories are like in the early 1900s or whatever like that. A Christmas Story was in the Depression, and a lot of these other stories were during that period. So I think it's very timely for that time frame. So that was smart on your part trying to get it in that period. Um,
And I'd
can you give
say,
us?
good, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, there's also some Easter eggs we have in there. Mrs. Claus, her name is based on my mom's name, who's no longer with us. So, we kind of drew some personal ties to it. Some of the imagery, there's some things that are shown that have personal impact or personal meanings to us as well. So that's one of the other fun things that we kind of try to incorporate into the project itself. So I just want to throw that on there.
Well, that makes sense because most authorships and most books that people write, they say to put yourself in your writing, and you have much more meaning in that, and it kind of is part of you, and you have more connection to it, and it's better that way. So I think that's a good idea to connect yourself to the writing. It'll be better that way because it's more truthful, it's more real, and stuff like that. So I think that's a good way to go with it. Appreciate that. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. What about these characters? So are these characters, I don't want you to give too much away before we get the book, but are they caricatures of Santa and Mrs. Santa? Are they different? What stands out with this version of these characters from the hundreds of versions that have come before?
Don't answer me. So it's really a progression. You see the front of the book, they're very young, right? So they're very young, and then it kind of goes through very quickly, like I said, um, the latter years of their life. So you see them as little children, and then school age kids, of course. Maybe first, second grade, and then you get into the teenage years, which is like high school, and then really it delves into the college, when they're in college essentially, and that's kind of where it finishes. I mean, of course, we have some images of Santa traditionally and Mrs. Claus, the white beard and stuff like that. But it's more, I guess the best way to describe it would be almost like the book can almost be seen as almost like a memory, you know, as though they're telling their story and going down memory lane, I guess, is maybe the best way to kind of shape it. Is it's that, like he said, it's that origin story that needs to be told, and it's now them reflecting on it. I guess is the best way to maybe say it or put it.
Oh, okay, I see. The style.
It's not like a
That you've
bubbly
done.
or anything like that, but
Yeah,
you get it.
yeah.
Because at the very last page shows Santa as we normally see him with his sleigh, with his reindeer. But the majority of the story is not him old with a white beard and stuff like that. So it's more a progression when they're younger.
Well, it sounds like an interesting story, and that's the trick is trying to come up with something that has not been done. And now for this type of property and this type of story, there's been so many iterations
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's very difficult. The fact that you came up with something different, something that really hasn't been done before, is a testament to your imagination. Noah. And I think it will do well. I'm going to do my best to share this video as far as I can to get as many eyes on the project for you to help you out. I kickstarted it yesterday myself.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
you're welcome. And I thought, yeah, the price was very reasonable with shipping. It was very reasonable. And what is it going to have like a dust jacket and a cover, a regular cover, or just a cover without a dust jacket?
No dust jacket. We're in between saddle stitch and perfectly bound, which is what the Joe books are. Um, there is one internal page which I'm working on because we made some changes and it kind of, I wouldn't say mess up the page count, but it made it more challenging. So my wife had an idea for doing something in a very, like, I guess you'd say page one. But it would have to be a different type of paper material. So I don't want to give it away, but so there may be like a kind of a fun, cool thing that the child can do. It's how do you want to call it? Maybe interactive, I guess we can say. Not electronically. There has to be something like called a pen that they have to use or pencil. So my goal is to include that page. I'm still working out the details on that because I don't know when it's saddle stitch, how can that be done because of a coating? You know what I mean? So it's all about the coating of the paper. So if it's too hard to do saddle stitch, we may go perfectly bound, which is perfectly fine too. I mean, either way, I was trying to see what the most it would be most cost effective, and based on the quotes I've gotten, it doesn't seem like it's much more. So it's good, but so yeah, so there's some things that I need. That's why I need to work with the printer this week before we get going. Is kind of figure out how we're going to do that page to where the coding's not going to impact the interaction, I guess is the best way to put it. So,
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. Looking at, I'm like, it looks like one of those type little, not the, remember those gold
yep, yep,
books
yep. It'll be the
like
size
that?
of the Joe books. I just stuck with the same square size.
Oh, you did.
Um, I was going to go traditional, but we decided, I looked at a lot of his kids' books, especially being saddle stitch and stuff, and he had several that were close to that size, like a square 10 by 10, 9 by 9. Um, so we just kind of played around with the Joe book size and just said, you know what, it's worked there. I actually have material. I have shipping boxes already for that stuff. So why not? And I know how to pack them properly with that size as well. So logistically, it just made sense as there as well.
Yeah, I
So
guess
now,
that
now you
would
can
make
put it next to your other books.
could put it with my G.I. Joe, all my G.I. Joe collection books and stuff. But that
Exactly.
makes sense that you have to look at logistics and costing and making sure the pricing and stuff stays down so you can effectively get the best price for the Kickstarter and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that's logical. I understand that completely. That makes sense. Um, so, what ultimately, Dan, do you feel, other than completing the Kickstarter, what do you feel ultimately the goal uh, for the book is? Do you want to do more with this? Do you want to? I asked this to Noah earlier, but I figured I would ask you and see what your thoughts are as well. Uh,
I want what Noah wants. Noah wants Hollywood calling. Now, uh,
it's a possibility.
who knows? You never know. I mean, Kirk Ferguson said it sounds like a Hallmark movie, so who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe it will be someday. But um, for me, like I said, it's a personal project. I'm happy just to get it out. I want people to enjoy it. I want families to enjoy it. That's my ultimate goal. We do have some ideas as far as the series and extending it. There's just some things I would have to look into. With that. But yeah, we have some other ideas, and like I said, my daughter wants to do something next, so we have the next project would be hers more likely. But we've talked about a couple different things of how to extend the series based on the concept itself. Um, but yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, and again, like I shared earlier, it's really a life lesson of being persistent and not allowing. That's kind of what it's turned into. It's more like, hey, this is fun, but now it's more about being persistent. And in life, you're gonna be handed challenges, and you have to be able to overcome them and continue to fight through it, and not in a negative way, but just don't give up.
Um, Noah, did you actually write all the words in this book? With obviously your dad and mom probably helped you with the editing, but are these all your words?
So I would say things, and my dad would write them down, and he would make like little tiny changes on the way to make it
To make it well,
like
where people can read it. So more, I don't know if you what's the right word, literate, I guess. For people, for the reader. Yeah, I mean, we just it was a lot of brainstorming. I mean, I have my original brainstorming notes on paper, so we kept that. I need to think about where I have those. Maybe it'd be fun to kind of share those on Kickstarter. But um, yeah, I mean, so it was just kind of one of those things we brainstormed on paper, and I did the notes. And by the way, if you see nail polish on my fingers, it's my daughter decided to paint them for Halloween. I'll
Uh,
throw that out there
uh,
because they may show up.
uh,
But we did it on paper, and then we typed it out, and then made some small modifications. And then Kirk recommended a couple things as well. To kind of spruce it up, or some of the words like, I think I had siblings or something, and he's like, yeah, just children or kids. So he's like, kids aren't going to understand what siblings maybe are at that young age. So, um, but yeah, he didn't. He is his brainchild. A lot of the, well, let's have him do this, or let's have him do that, or um, let's do these things. So I just kind of took his words and his story and try to make it as literal as I could, as far as where someone could understand what's going on and follow along. So
is it like a rhyming book, or what style are you using?
narrative, I guess you could say. Um, it's I don't want to say it's your typical love story, but it's as though you would tell maybe how your parents met. You know what I mean? And that kind of narrative, I guess, is the best way to put it. Is you know, here's these two individuals. How do they come together? Such an infamous couple in the world of children. How did these two people meet, and how did they progress? And so we took. I think it's yeah, I think it's a fun story. I mean, um, and the name, somewhat tied to it as well, as with it all. So
How many words is this going to be?
I never did a word count actually. It's 20 pages, so not including like, the preface and everything on all that stuff.
400,
400?
probably around.
Okay. 400 according to him.
Wow,
If there's
But
a lot.
20 words a page.
yeah, but some pages have more written on it than others. Um, that's also been a challenge, just trying to line it all up and the imagery and all that fun stuff. But I did that all yesterday. I think we're good to go there. So the last page is a 2-page spread. So that one's 2-page spread, but all the other ones are individual pages and stuff like that. So,
Is
but
there
yeah,
art on every page?
yep,
Wow,
yep,
that's a lot of art.
yeah. And then there's some pages have 3 pieces of art, depending, or there's 3. One of them has 2. Because again, it's all the story. It's a little bit of back and forth. So you have to be willing to
Put in the effort.
hmm,
Put in the effort
put in the effort of what?
making all that art.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of effort in the art, but just be able to like follow along and understand that maybe a little bit of time lapsed between the 2 scenes, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So that's why we have those images the way they are. And it means it's written that way so people understand, like maybe a couple weeks went by or a couple days went by, or it's not all like, oh, that scene rolls right into that scene. So it's written. So as long as the child can comprehend, and if they can't, I'm sure the parent can help out, with that. So, but
um, going back to the art, it seemed like there's a lot of to me, it looks like a watercolor type style of art. What was the style that Stephanie was going for this?
um that's a good question to ask her, actually. I don't know. I gave her a synopsis of visually what I thought the characters should be doing. And she just kind of went with it. So I kind of left it up to her to really, and she'd run it by me. She is all black and white, of course, initially, and then she would share it out, with me, and we give her approval, or hey, can we make a slight change here, or can we add this, or even the front cover is going to change a little bit because I part of the story is there's a school name, and I was having a hard time coming up with something that fit in the space. So I finally came up with something yesterday. So she offered to, even though we're finished with everything, she offered to fix it or change it. So instead of just saying public school, we I now have a school name that we're gonna hopefully fit in that little space. So that's the goal. So
She's been a very good collaborator on the project with you
yeah.
then.
Yeah, very good at communication, quick with everything. So, like I said, we started in the summer. She had a couple other projects, that she's working on, but um, yeah, she's been really effective and efficient with, with what she's been doing and the quality. And like I said, if it is a slight change of, if I want to change the color of something or an outfit, she does it like within a few minutes. I mean, she's just skilled at like that. So it's really cool.
Do you want to give the Kickstarter specifics for the audience, Dan?
As far as the link, you mean, or
Yeah, all your information and stuff they usually do for these Kickstarters.
So you're able to like purchase. Remember, you have to make an account or sign in or something.
I'm not sure what he's. As far as like directions on how to sign in and log in,
No,
or
no,
just.
just the times, the dates, the
Oh,
all the
okay, okay.
specifics.
He's thinking instructions on. I've had some family members who've had trouble logging in because they've never done Kickstarter.
Right.
So they're like, I tried to pledge, and we did. I fumbled the first night or first morning because Kickstarter now added this new feature for latecomers to Kickstarters, and so I thought that was kind of cool. So I added it on, and I was thinking I hit the right button. Apparently, I didn't. So the first hour or so was up is kind of odd, but there's just been some challenges. Some of my family members were trying to get it, and they're like, I'm like, no, you need to create an account. Like, you gotta put your credit card number in there and all that jazz. You just don't just go in there and just pledge. But yeah, so it ends October 20th at 11:59, which I believe is a Sunday, is what I did. um like I said, it's 20 pages. we're looking forward to getting this out there. I'll share some pages with you, of course, if you'd like. But really, I just the ask is just share it around. So even if someone's not into it, or they don't have little kids anymore, or they're not really, maybe they're not into Christmas, but they like this Christmas spirit, I guess. Share it around to as many people as you can. Again, I know a lot of people have young children and grandchildren, so um, yeah, so we got about 14 days, I think it said, um, left, or 15 days, and we're at 12%. So it's creeping there, and there's different tiers. There's the $12 tier, which is just the book itself. $20 tier, which is a signed copy for myself and this little man, and then I believe the $30 will be a copy of the book signed by us, as well as like a little holiday, personalized holiday card that the individual will receive as well. So
That's kind of cool.
yeah,
I
so
feel
it's
that I'll probably see you in the future, so I'll get my book signed at some point down the road. We keep thinking we're going to see each other at different events, and
I
then
know.
life happens, and we end up missing each other. But I know I'll see you again in the
Oh yeah,
future at some point or another. It's just a matter of time.
let's come out to Arizona, man.
I would love to come out to Arizona again. It's just a matter of life. You know how it
No,
is.
I hear you.
Trying to deal with all the things that come up as an adult. Adulting is very tough, Noah.
You want to say anything about it before you go?
I don't think it's that hard.
What's that?
Adulting? Oh,
That's a whole other topic. We'll be on for an hour. Ignore this kid. Do you want to say anything about the Kickstarter, or anything you want to share out the people?
are you sharing this with all your friends at school, Noah?
I
Saying,
did
hey,
on
look
the
at my book?
phone.
He did on the phone a little bit. I think it's, he's at that age where if it had come out 3 or 4 years ago, I think it would have been a lot better in the sense of his age group. But, he's in seventh grade now. So it's kind of, too cool for school a little bit. But
Hey, I
I
can
told
give you a
him,
little. I can give you a little background into people that have published things, whether they published novels or comic books. There was a gentleman, his name is Jim Shooter. He became a comic book writer at 12 years old, 13 years old. And there's a novelist, Paulini, who became a novelist at the age of, I think, 15 years old. So it doesn't matter your age. If you have a drive and you have something you want to speak to and put out into the ether and the world, go ahead and you do it. You keep those creative juices going.
yes, I told him, I said, it could be something fun on your resume someday. You can add that to your resume when you're out job searching in the future. So, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, you got the preteen just woke up 10 minutes before this, so hasn't eaten breakfast. So he's his energy level, I think, is weaning right now. But
All right. Well, I think we've covered everything, Dan. I really appreciate you and Noah. Thank you for waking up and taking the time to join us today. It's been very fun to talk to you and meet you. Hopefully, I'll see you in the future, Noah. Definitely will be seeing Dan in the future. This is very enjoyable speaking to you about something different like this. I like to talk about different projects and share with the community all the different variety of things that our community are contributing. And Dan, your dad has contributed quite a lot to this community in many different ways. And I This is a whole nother avenue. I think the fans and the people that know him are going to really appreciate. And it looks really fun. And if I had children, I'm sure they would love it as well. But I don't. But I'll read it and I will enjoy it myself.
well, we appreciate it.
Um, so I want to thank you guys for joining me this morning. And and if people want to reach out to Dan, they can go to where?
You can hit me up on Facebook, Dan Klingensmith Jr. The Kickstarter link, I'm assuming you'll probably put it in here somewhere. So you can message me through that if you want. Uh, Especially, unless you're one of those, hey, we've done a million Kickstarters. We're gonna, there's so many ads I get at this time when I go live. It's hilarious. But but no, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, by all means, um, let me know. But like I said, I mean, I'm staying in the same uh can't think of what the word is, but same mental state as far as getting these out quickly. I think that's one thing I've always been very happy about with my printer and proud about that. Printing locally, yes, it's more expensive, but again, you're supporting local businesses, and in addition to that, you can get things out more timely too, and you don't have to wait months and months and months or years, depending on what you're producing, to wait for it to get here. Depending on what it is. So I'm very proud of that, and we're looking forward to getting it out there. So I appreciate you having us on.
Hey, no problem. So, for the viewers and patrons out there, this is Unwrapping the Magic: How Santa Met Mrs. Claus. It's on Kickstarter and it ends October 20th. And you will have it in time for the holidays. Dan is a man of his word, and I believe him. So I hope you pledge. And for viewers out there, remember to like and share this video. And I will talk to you next time. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what we say on here, right? Yo, Joe.
That's it.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.